Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. Now, I am really excited to be talking with Gary K. Wolf. Now, he is the creator of Roger Rabbit. In 1981, his book, Who Censored Roger Rabbit, was released. It then went on to become the 1988 film, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which a lot of people might be more familiar with. So, we're going to be talking about the world that he created, the fans over the years, and some things that you may have been hearing. There are questions that I've been getting about the rights and the ownership of Roger Rabbit. So we're going to be discussing that and talking about a possible announcement that's coming. So Gary, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, it's my great pleasure. You have been one of the biggest supporters of Jessica Rabbit for the past 22 years,
Right.
and whatever I can do to make your life and your work more prominent, happy to do it.
Thank you. So I mean it's fun, you know. I mean it's great. The world you created is fantastic. The characters are so memorable and fun. We've actually been speaking, a long time on and off here and there. I interviewed you for my website, imnotbad.com. Could you believe, like, almost 15 years ago?
I know, I remember
I
one of
can't
my best interviews too. Still, nobody has surpassed that one.
I can't believe it's been that long. But over the years we've spoken, and you've had other projects and other books that have been released, and we talk about them when they're coming out. But I want to talk today about your novel, Who Censored Roger Rabbit, released in 1981. So we're past the 40-year mark already.
Yes,
Can you believe that?
yes, yeah.
Now, I remember when I did find out it was a book, because I didn't know that at first. When I read it's such a vibrant, rich story. The characters mixed in with this mystery. Like every chapter was like a little cliffhanger leading you into something else or somewhere else. And I just remember thinking, what is the mind that created this? Who is the person that made this story? And it was just so incredible. So can you tell me a little bit about what was the inspiration of this?
I wrote it in San Francisco in the 70s. And the question I get asked most often is, what kind of drugs were you taking when you wrote this book? And I categorically, I do not take drugs. Never have, never will. It was something that combined the two loves of my childhood, one of which were comic books, cartoons, and comic strips, and the other one were noir mystery novels.
Hmm.
And I wanted a concept that would kind of combine those two things. I wanted to write a noir mystery. I'd written science fiction up until that point, but my other love was noir mysteries, and I wanted to write one. But I also wanted to include something about comic books, comic strips, and cartoons, and not an easy thing to interrelate those two concepts. So I was watching Saturday morning cartoons one Saturday morning, purely for research. I told my wife, purely sitting here watching these cartoons for research. And I became fascinated by a portion of them, not the cartoons themselves, which were kind of simplistic and not at all up to the cartoons that I remember from my youth, the Donald Duck, Woody Woodpecker, Heckle and Jekyll, Bugs Bunny stuff. What fascinated me wasn't the cartoons, but the commercials, because I saw cartoon characters talking to real kids, and nobody seemed to think that was odd. I saw Captain Crunch, Snap, Crackle, and Pop, Tony the Tiger, the Tricks Rabbit, all talking to real kids, and nobody seemed to question this. And I thought to myself, gee, what an interesting concept that is. What would happen if you had a world where cartoon characters were real? What kind of a world would that be?
Hmm.
So I spent the next year doing research on the things that separated and differentiated cartoons, comic strips, and comic books from real life. What went on there that didn't happen in real life? Then I took that and integrated that into a hard-boiled private eye novel with a mystery that could not have happened in a world where cartoon characters did not exist. And it was very, very successful. What kinds of things happen in cartoons that don't happen in real life? Well, when a cartoon shoots somebody with a cartoon gun, the gun produces a bang balloon. And the bang balloon, they're very fragile. They're like flying Delft Chinaware. The bang balloon will fall to the ground, and if it lands on a hard surface, it'll crack into a million pieces. But you can still, a forensics guy can get those pieces, piece them all together, and reproduce the bang balloon. And then if you find the gun that you think committed the crime, you fire it, get the bang balloon, and compare that bang balloon to the other bang balloon. And if they match, well, that's the murder weapon. The other thing, the tunes play the piano and the notes go drifting off, and people collect those drifting notes and cut them up into 8x12 sheets, and that's where sheet music comes from. There also the characters in the book, being characters from comic books and cartoon strips, spoke in word balloons. They didn't actually speak, they spoke in word balloons. So when you spoke to a tune, the word balloon would go up over the tune's head and you had to read the tune. And if the tune turned around, then you either had to learn to read in reverse or you had to go around to the other side of the tune so you could see what the tune was saying. I wrote that book to amuse myself. I never anticipated that it would have the impact on the world, really, and literature that it did. I just wrote it to amuse myself in the morning, and hopefully to amuse some of my friends who might read it. Now years later, people are still reading it. I have it up on my website, www.garywolf.com. I still sell tons and tons of them every month, all around the world, and people refer to me as a world builder.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a term that didn't exist when I wrote that book. Right. But the more I think about it, the more accurate that is. Yes, I'm a world builder. The other interesting thing that came about because of that book and the way that book was written, I don't consider myself to be a humorist. I consider myself to be a serious writer, that I'm writing serious things about, well, maybe not so serious subjects, but serious stuff. And people who read my book say, this is the funniest thing I've ever read. And I don't know where that's coming from, because I didn't write it to be funny. It's supposed to be serious, guys, be serious. So that's where that came from. That's the inspiration, and that's the book.
And the book, it is a little bit different from the movie. It's a bit grittier. It's got some story points that are just more in the forefront. Say like the tunes, the comic characters being like minorities. They aren't treated the same. They aren't looked at the same. And so it has quite a bit of depth to it. And yes, there is world building that now you think of it now. You think of this multiverses, world building, all this kind of stuff that, didn't really exist, I guess, at that time. And you got a real stamp of approval because you had the book sent out, I think it was unbeknownst to you, to Disney. And was it Roy Disney
Roy Disney, yeah. I had a 4-deal contract with Doubleday to print basically anything I wanted to write. They really loved me at Doubleday, and I had written 3 science fiction novels. This was my 4th, and I sent it to Doubleday as the 4th novel in my 4-book contract. And I had written 100 short stories and 3 novels. I'd never had a reject. They rejected Who Censored Roger Rabbit. I was floored. I called my editor. I said, Sharon, why did you reject this? I said, this is the best thing I've ever written. And she said, oh, I agree. She said, it's wonderful. She said, it's insightful. It's funny. It's different. Never read anything like it. But it's the problem. It is so different from anything that anybody else has ever written, ever, that I had to send it to the marketing department. And they were the ones who rejected it. So I called the marketing department, head of the marketing department. I said, hey, Chuck, why'd you reject my novel? And he said, well, we all loved it over here. We thought it was really funny, but there's not another novel like this. He said, there's no category for this on the bookstore shelves. I went to my agent and I told my agent, Bill, I don't know what's going to happen here, but if I can't sell this book, I won't be a writer anymore, because this is what I want to write. And he said, oh, don't worry. Wonderful book. Wonderful book. We'll find a home for it. So he started sending it out to different publishers, sometimes different editors at the same publisher. And along the way, it got 110 rejects. 110 different publishers and editors rejected this book,
Mm.
always for the same reason. There's no category in the bookstore shelves. We can't sell this book. And finally, it landed on the desk of an editor at St. Martin's Press, a young woman named Rebecca Martin. And she had just published a big bestseller for them. And so they gave her a vanity project. They said, Rebecca, whatever book you want to publish next, you can publish. Have fun. So Censored Roger Rabbit came across her desk, and she said, "Oh, this is the book I want to publish." So she took it directly to the president of the company and laid it on his desk and said, "This is the book I want to publish." She said, "Okay, I'm going to read it tonight. I'll get back to you in the morning." So he took it home, read it, came back in the morning, called her in and said, "Rebecca, I told you could publish any book you wanted, but I can't publish this because I can't sell it. There's no category for this on the bookstore shelves." And Rebecca stood up to the plate and said, "You told me I could publish anything I wanted. Either publish that or I quit."
Wow.
So they published the book, albeit in very, very, very small quantities. I think there were less than 5,000 copies, which is infinitesimally small. And anyway, it was in the mill. It was ready to be published. They bought it in 1980. It was going to come out in 1981. And in mid 1980, I got a call at home. And this guy on the other end of the line says, "Hi, is this Gary K. Wolf?" I said, "Yes, it is." He says, "Hi, this is Roy Disney with the Disney Company." And I said, "Yeah, right, Roy Disney calling me at home. That's Shorts. Who is this really? One of my friends having me on." He said, No, it's really Roy Disney." He said, "I just read your book and I'm wondering if you'd be interested in having Disney make a movie of it." I said, "Yeah, right. The book hasn't even come out yet." Somebody at St. Martin's, I never found out who, and I tried desperately because I wanted to kiss her or him full on the lips for doing this, but somebody sent my book to Disney and said, "Hey, we think you'd really enjoy this book. We're going to publish it, and we think that it would make a great movie." And Disney agreed.
Wow.
And there was a lot of reasons for them to buy this book. I never actually thought the book was filmable. I thought that the technology that was going to be required and the creativity, I didn't think it was filmable. But they offered me more money for the rights than everything I'd ever made prior to that put together. So, if they're wanting to try, yeah, I could go ahead and try. And so they bought it, and for the first they bought it in 1980 before the book came out. For the first 5 years, from 80 to 85, they pretty much proved me right. They really didn't have the horsepower to make this.
It went through a lot of different changes. There's a lot of different test animations, variations of the characters.
Yeah,
Probably
yeah.
seen.
And my favorite was when Roy Disney came to me and said, "We're not having much luck doing this as a live action animated movie combined. So what do you think about having the animated characters in costume the way they are in Disneyland?"
Oh boy.
And, and I'm thinking, oh, swell. I'm going to have the Disney stable of characters. I'm going to have Fred McMurray as Eddie Valiant. I'm going to have Haley Mills as Jessica. Dean Jones as the Rabbit, and Kurt Russell as Baby Herman.
Oh gosh.
And I said to Roy, doesn't that compromise the principle just a little bit? And he said, "Yeah, I guess you're right." So they went off and did other things that didn't work either. But in '85, a couple of things happened. Michael Eisner came in. Roy Disney got basically pushed upstairs and out. And Michael Eisner came in. He brought with him Jeff Katzenberg. And the two of them had made blockbuster movies at Paramount. And their mission was to reinvigorate the company, to produce movies that weren't necessarily home runs, but were definite singles and doubles and the occasional triple. They canceled all the projects that they had under development because that's what happens when somebody new comes in, all except for this one, which was the movie they both realized they had to make. So they did something that nobody at Disney had ever done before, ever. They brought in an outside producer for one of their movies. And that outside producer was a little known guy named Steven Spielberg. So when Steve Spielberg gets involved, things start to happen in Hollywood. And as an example, back in 82 or 83, Roy Disney went to Warner Brothers and said, hey, we're making this live action animated movie, and it's going to have a lot of our characters in it. We'd like to have Bugs Bunny do a cameo. We'd like to have him come on and say, what's up, Doc? And then walk off. How about that? And Warner Brothers looked at Roy Disney and said, get lost. Get lost. There's no way that Bugs Bunny is ever going to appear in a Walt Disney movie. That is never going to happen. So that was in 82, 83. 86, Steve Spielberg walked in and made the identical request. Can we have Bugs Bunny for a cameo in a movie I'm making over at Disney? Warner Brothers looked at Steve Spielberg and says, of course you can. Yes, here, take him. What about here? Take Porky Pig and the Roadrunner, Wile E. Coyote. And what about Yosemite Sam? Can't forget Yosemite and Tweety Bird and Sylvester. Take them all. So he got them all. And the only codicil was that Bugs Bunny, being a cartoon superstar, had a contract. And in his contract, it was required that he be in every scene with Mickey Mouse,
right,
as a co-equal superstar.
Yep.
And that they have the exact same number of words of dialogue.
So, and the movie, I think, is where a lot of people came into it. They discovered Roger from the movie, directed by Robert Zemeckis, who Back to the Future and Death Becomes Her, Forrest Gump, lots and lots of movies, and of course Steven Spielberg, who everybody knows. The book was different than the film, but what was your impression when you first saw it, when you first got to see it? It comes out.
Oh, I worked on it all through the production process. Stephen and Bob had both read the book when it came out, and they both thought it would be a great movie. Bob Zemeckis had been offered the project back in 81 or 82 and turned it down because he didn't think that Disney had the horsepower to do the movie. And Stephen never even considered it as a possibility. But when Stephen came on board, the first thing he did was bring in Bob Zemeckis and said, hey, now I've got the horsepower, now I can do it. I knew early on that the movie would be different from the book, because a movie's a movie and a book's a book.
Right.
And if you're an author, you have to accept that the words that you write on paper don't necessarily translate perfectly as ideas and concepts to the screen. You just have to accept that.
Right.
I'm happy. I'm overjoyed that the movie came out as well as it did. I mean, it's a brilliant movie. They changed the story, but the story had to change because the book story was a book story and the movie story is a movie story. But they kept what I feel were the essential elements. They kept a world where cartoon characters are real, which was my initial concept. They also kept all of my characters. They kept Roger Rabbit. They kept Jessica Rabbit. They kept Baby Herman. They kept Eddie Valiant. They could very easily have changed Roger to Roger Raccoon, or and Jessica to Mary Raccoon. I don't know, but they didn't. They kept them all, and by and large, the way I describe them in the book are the way they're portrayed on the screen.
Right.
So I'm overjoyed by that. And those characters since that movie have taken on a life of their own. Roger, Jessica especially, she's become an international icon. I mean, I was in China years ago lecturing on animation because they have a vibrant animation industry over there. And I was at universities lecturing on animation. And they all knew who these characters were. They knew Roger, they knew Jessica. And every time I mentioned Jessica Rabbit, they laughed. And I asked my translator, why are they laughing when I say Jessica Rabbit? And he said, well, in China, we refer to Jessica Rabbit as big melons. And I said, oh, so that kind of makes me the big melon man, right? And he said, yeah, you're the big melon man. So,
Wow.
uh, these are icons,
Yeah,
and
sure.
uh, they will continue to exist forever.
I mean, I know people probably don't know this about me, but Jessica Rabbit did have a little bit of an influence on my life. I know it doesn't show. I know it's a bit of but it just may have.
You're the little melon man.
Yeah, well, exactly. I'll take it. I will take that title. I am more than happy to. So that could be my nickname going forward. So the film was released in 1988. It's been some years now, and people are still discovering it. People have loved the movie since it came out. So it still has many, many fans out there who are very dedicated to it. And they do want to see more and they want to see other things.
Well, the story, the question that I've been asked repeatedly for 35 years is, will there be a sequel?
Right.
And lately, I've always answered it by this in the same way. I said, stay tuned, gang, stay tuned. And lately, I have to say that I think that Roger Rabbit fans are going to be very, very happy after the first of the year. Um, Everybody wants to see more Roger. Everybody, especially, wants to see more Jessica, much more Jessica. And after the first of the year, I think you're going to be seeing a whole lot more of Jessica.
Now, I've always thought, that I'm biased, but I've always felt that the world of Roger Rabbit could expand. I mean, I saw it, like you said, I was the kid watching the cartoons mixed with the humans. I didn't think it was anything out of the ordinary. I mean, because that's the age that I was, and I was like, there's so many more things that can be done with it. And now, when we are in this age of different things, different versions of characters existing and stuff like that, is there a potential to build out the world of Roger Rabbit now?
The Roger Rabbit universe is expanding. And I can say categorically that it's going to be fun. Uh, Fans are going to love what happens. Fans are going to love what they see. And it's just going to be a very, very joyous time in Toontown.
So this is definitely something that's up for expansion to build out. Like you said, this is world building. So is there any kind of even a hint of what this could even look like? Because this is a big deal. I mean, this is going to be a major announcement.
There may be possibilities. There certainly are possibilities for movies. There are possibilities for a TV series, possibilities for a stage play. There's possibilities for merchandise. You probably know that Disney stopped making Roger Rabbit merchandise a year ago. And that was because, Disney told their vendors they no longer owned the rights to Roger Rabbit.
It's a little complicated, especially with Roger Rabbit, because Disney's lost the rights to the movie somehow. It reverted back to the original screenplay writer. There's a whole lot of hullabaloo on who owns what and how to access it and everything else.
Recently, and I've had a couple of comments, people asking me about it because they've heard that the ownership to Roger Rabbit has changed hands. And so I guess that is a question that I really have for you, is who owns Roger Rabbit?
Well, I have to be a bit mysterious about that. I'm not quite at liberty to say until the announcement.
But we know, you do know.
But I do know, and I do know that the person who owns the rights now
Okay.
is extremely interested in doing more Roger Rabbit projects and is extremely well connected in the movie, film, TV, stage play, comic book, whatever arena.
Wow. Wow. So I think that's something that fans are going to be excited to know more about when the time comes. So that will be soon.
I'm anticipating that we will make an announcement in early January, not just because that coincides with my birthday and will be a great birthday present for me, but I think it will also be a wonderful 2025 present for all the many, many fans who have been so loyal to these characters through the years and who have been waiting so patiently for some kind of new Roger, Jessica project to come down the pike. I think that everybody is going to be tickled to death and over the moon when they hear the announcement. Yeah.
The fan base is so extremely loyal to Roger, of course, to Jessica. I see it all the time because of my pages. I see what people are saying. They have a real dedicated love for these characters. As you said, they've become icons. Now it's, again, almost 40 years. So I know we're going to have people anxiously now awaiting what this announcement is. Of course, I'm really connected to the people and hearing what they say, seeing what they write, and everyone's got their own different ideas, their own different takes on things, on the characters and everything. So I think there's such a huge possibility here. I think everyone's going to be really, really happy.
Well, somebody was telling me about the multiverse, that the hot new thing now in world building is a multiverse where characters take on slightly different looks and slightly different personalities. And that's definitely a possibility in Toontown. Toontown is a never never land.
Right.
Toontown exists in a land that isn't firmly tied to an era. It's not firmly tied to a specific look. It's fluid. It's fluid and it's fun. And I see the characters as evolving, progressing, growing, but continuing to be basically the same characters that everybody has known and loved for such a long time.
Can't wait. I, of all people, can't wait. So this is going to be exciting. So thank you. Thank you for telling me what you can. I'm looking forward so much to this announcement. And then hopefully after that, we can talk a little bit more.
Absolutely. Love to do it.
Please be sure to like and subscribe. I am going to be following up with Gary in a couple of weeks, and we're going to get more in depth on this announcement and what it means from here going forward. So whether you're a longtime fan of Roger Rabbit or you're new to it, the world looks like it's going to expand, and I'm really, really excited about that. I really want to hear more. So let me know in the comments below, what do you think it is? What do you want to see happening in the world of Roger Rabbit? And make sure you join me next time. I'll see you then.